Listen, oh, listen. Gather round and let me tell you the story of Mama Glory, a woman whose face was like stone in her own house, but whose laughter shook the entire village when she stepped outside. This story will make you wonder about the masks we wear and the secrets we keep. In the small village of Mora, there lived a woman called Mama Glory. Now, when I say this woman never smiled at home, I mean it all. Her husband, Papa Glory, would wake up every morning and the first thing he would see was his wife's face, tight like a clenched fist. Her two children, Glory, the first daughter, and Sandra, the second daughter, they would tiptoe around the house like mice, afraid that even their breathing might disturb their mother. Every morning, the same routine. Mama Glory would wake up at 5 o'clock, her face already set in that familiar frown. She would cook breakfast, her wooden spoon hitting the pot with angry sounds. Bam, bam, bam. The children would eat in silence, their eyes on their plates. If Glory dared to say, "Mama, the food is sweet," she would look at her with eyes that could freeze water and say nothing, not even a grunt, just silence, heavy like a bag of stones. Papa Glory had long given up trying to make his wife smile. In the early days of their marriage, he would crack jokes, bring her small gifts from the market, even dance funny dances to make her laugh. But Mama Glory's face would remain like a wall. Eventually, Papa Glory resigned himself to a life of quietness, burying his head in his newspaper every morning, asking only for his iron shirt and his tea. But here is where the story becomes interesting. Oh, you see, every afternoon, when Mama Glory finished her house duties, she would tie her wrapper differently, wear her good blouse, and step out of that compound. The moment her feet crossed the threshold of her gate, something magical would happen. It was as if a different spirit entered her body. At the village square where the women gathered to sell their goods, Mama Glory was a different person entirely. She would arrive and the whole place would light up. "Mama Glory is here!" the women would shout with joy. And true to form, Mama Glory would throw her head back and laugh, a big, rolling laughter that started from her belly and filled the air like music. The transformation was so complete that if you did not know better, you would think she was a different woman entirely. Her whole body would change, her shoulders would relax, her face would open up like a flower in the sun. Even her voice would become different, fuller, richer, alive. My people," she would announce, her voice loud and full of life. "Let me tell you what happened to me at the market yesterday." And she would begin her stories, acting out every character with such skill that even the serious mama traders would bend over with laughter, slapping their thighs and wiping tears from their eyes. She would imitate how the yam seller quarreled with the tomato seller, changing her voice for each person, twisting her face, moving her body like a dancer. "You think your tomatoes are made of gold?" she would mimic in a squeaky voice, puffing up her chest and wagging her finger. Then she would switch to a deep voice, hunching her shoulders and stomping her foot. "And you think your yams fell from heaven? Even God himself did not eat yams as expensive as yours." The market women would laugh until their sides hurt. But Mama Glory's talent went beyond just imitation. She had this gift of seeing the funny side of everything. When the rains came and flooded Mama Nkechi's compound, everyone was sympathetic and sad. But Mama Glory would come and say, "You people did not hear? Mama Nkechi has finally achieved her dream. She always says she wanted to live near the river, like the big people in town. Now the river has come to visit her. She didn't even need to pay transport." And somehow, even Mama Nkechi herself would laugh at her own misfortune. Every day, Mama Glory had a new story, a new joke, a new way to make people forget their troubles. She became the village comedian, the one everyone looked forward to seeing. "That Mama Glory," people would say, "she can make a corpse laugh."
Even the men would pause their dominoes game to listen when Mama Glory started her performances. Young girls would gather around her, hoping to learn her secrets. The women of the village loved her so much that they started calling her our medicine. When you are sick with worry, you don't need herbs. Just go and find Mama Glory. She will cure you with laughter. And it was true. Women who came to the market with heavy hearts would go home feeling lighter after spending time in Mama Glory's presence.
But the most painful part of this story is what nobody in the village knew. Those same children who heard their mother's laughter ringing across the village square had never heard it in their own home. Glory would sometimes stand at the corner of the market, hidden behind a stall, watching her mother perform, her heart breaking into pieces. Who is this woman? She would wonder. This cannot be the same mama who serves us food with a face like thunder. One evening, little Sandra asked her mother a question. Mama Glory had just returned from the village square, her face already transformed back into its usual hardness as she crossed the threshold. Mama, Sandra said with her small voice, my friend said she saw you laughing at the market today. Can you laugh for me too? Mama Glory stopped. For a moment, just a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes. Pain, longing, regret. But then it was gone, replaced by that familiar hardness. Get out of my way, girl, she said, pushing past her to the kitchen. Sandra's small shoulders slumped as she walked away, her eyes filling with tears she tried hard to hide. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Mama Glory sat alone in the dark kitchen, Sandra's words echoing in her head. Can you laugh for me too? Such a simple request, such an impossible request. She wanted to laugh for her. Oh, how she wanted to. But something inside her was broken. She could not explain it, even to herself. The next morning, Glory, who was usually quiet like her sister, spoke up at breakfast. Mama, she said carefully, testing the waters, my teacher said I should tell stories in class next week. Can you teach me how to tell stories like you? The whole table froze. Papa Glory looked up from his newspaper. Sandra stopped chewing. They all waited to see what Mama Glory would say. For a long moment, Mama Glory said nothing. Then she spoke, and her voice was so cold it could have frozen fire. I don't know what you are talking about. I don't tell stories. Ask your teacher to teach you. She stood up abruptly and walked out of the room. But Glory, brave little Glory, followed her into the kitchen. Mama, she said softly, I know you tell stories at the market. Everyone knows. The whole village knows. Why do you pretend you don't? Mama Glory spun around, and for the first time in years, there was emotion on her face. But it was not joy or laughter. It was anger, raw and painful. You know nothing, small girl. Nothing. Now go to school before I show you Pepe. Glory ran out crying, and Mama Glory stood alone in the kitchen, her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. She cried silently, bitterly, for all the years of pretending, for all the joy she had given to strangers, while her own children begged for scraps of her happiness. Now, you may be wondering, what was wrong with this woman? Why would she scatter joy outside but bring only darkness to her own home? The answer, my friends, is a story within a story. Sit closer, let me tell you how Mama Glory became two different people. You see, many years ago, when Mama Glory was still a young bride, fresh and hopeful, she had loved her husband with a fire of 1,000 suns. Her name then was Glory Okafor, and she was known throughout her village as the girl whose laughter could wake the dead. When she married Papa Glory, whose real name was Emeka, she came to his house with dreams as big as the sky and a heart full of song. In those early days, oh, you should have seen her. She would wake up singing, cook while dancing, and fill the compound with stories and jokes. Even the neighbors would lean over the fence just to hear her laughter. That Emeka is a lucky man, they would say. He has married sunshine itself. But Papa Glory in those days was a different kind of man. He was young and proud and foolish, raised by a strict father who believed that a home should be serious, that laughter was for children and fools. His father had taught him that a man must control his household with an iron hand, that a wife who laughs too much is a wife who does not respect her husband. So, when Mama Glory would dance while cooking, Papa Glory would frown and say, "Must you behave like a child? You are a married woman now. Show some dignity." When she would tell jokes at the dinner table, he would shake his head and say, "Is this a home or a marketplace? Eat your food in peace, woman." At first, Mama Glory thought he was joking. She would laugh and say, "Ah, my husband, you are so serious. Come, let me make you smile." But Papa Glory would only become more stern. "I am not joking," he would say coldly. "A good wife knows when to be quiet." Mama Glory tried everything to please him. She tried being quieter, more serious, but it was never enough. If she cooked his favorite soup, he would complain that the meat was too tough. If she cleaned the house until it sparkled, he would find dust in a corner she had missed. If she wore a beautiful dress, he would say she was wasting money. If she wore an old one, he would say she was embarrassing him. Mama Glory endured it all. She told herself that marriage was about patience, about adjusting. She told herself that with time, her husband would soften, that his love would grow. She kept hoping, kept trying, kept smiling. But hope is a fragile thing, and constant criticism is like acid. It eats away at everything. The breaking point came when Mama Glory was pregnant with Glory, their first child. She had been feeling sick all day, but still managed to prepare dinner for the family. When she served the food, she accidentally spilled a little soup on the table. It was just a small thing, a tiny mistake that anyone could make. But Papa Glory exploded. "Are you blind?" he shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Can you not even serve food properly? What kind of wife are you? Is this what your mother taught you, to be careless and useless?" Mama Glory stood there, pregnant and tired and sick, with soup dripping on her feet, and something inside her broke. She did not cry, she did not argue. She simply wiped up the soup, served the food again, and sat down. But from that day, the light went out of her eyes. From that day, she decided that if laughter and joy were crimes in this house, then she would lock them away. Day by day, month by month, year by year, Mama Glory's smile began to fade in that house. She learned that no matter what she did, it was never good enough for Papa Glory. She learned to lock away her laughter, to hide her joy, to become as cold and serious as he demanded. And so, her home became a prison where happiness was not allowed. But oh, the pain of it. To kill your own nature, to bury your own spirit, it is a living death. Mama Glory would sometimes stand in front of the mirror at night after everyone had slept, and she would look at her face. She barely recognized herself. The girl who laughed at everything was gone. In her place was a stranger with hard eyes and a tight mouth.
And here is something else I must tell you. As the years passed, after Sandra was born, Papa Glory began to change. Perhaps it was becoming a father of 2 daughters that softened him. Perhaps it was seeing how his harshness had drained the life from his wife. Perhaps it was just age and wisdom finally catching up with him. He stopped criticizing everything. He started to notice when Mama Glory cooked his favorite meals. He would sometimes say, "Thank you for the food," or "The house looks nice." Small things, but they were something. He even tried once or twice to make conversation at dinner, to ask about her day. But by then, it was too late. The wall between them had been built too high, too thick. Mama Glory no longer knew how to respond to kindness from him. She no longer trusted it. She had learned to protect herself by feeling nothing, and she could not simply unlearn it because he suddenly decided to be gentle. So the years continued, with Papa Glory trying in his awkward way to bridge the gap, and Mama Glory locked behind her walls, unable or unwilling to let him in. And their children grew up in this cold peace, better than open warfare, but still so far from what a home should be. But the human spirit, my friends, the human spirit is like water. You cannot completely dam it. It will find a way to flow. And so, Mama Glory's laughter, which could not live in her home, found another home in the village square. There, with the other women, with strangers who appreciated her gift, she could finally be free. She could finally be herself. The children grew up in this coldness, like plants trying to grow in a dark room. They learned to be quiet, to not expect warmth from their mother. But they also learned something else. They learned that their mother was not really heartless. They heard the stories from the village. They knew she had laughter inside her. They just didn't understand why they couldn't have it. Glory, especially, carried this confusion like a heavy load. As she grew older, she began to resent her mother. Why does she give everyone else her best and give us her worst? She would ask her father. But Papa Glory had no answer. How could he explain something he himself did not fully understand? How could he tell his daughter that he was partly to blame for killing the laughter in their home? One evening, Glory came home from school and found her mother preparing to go to the market. She stood in her way. "Mama," she said, and her voice was hard, bitter, older than her 14 years. "Don't go today."
Mama Glory looked at her surprised. "Move, Glory, I have somewhere to be." "Yes, I know," Glory said. "You have to go and make other people's children happy. You have to go and be their perfect comedian, their perfect mama, while your own children starve for one smile from you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Mama Glory's face remained hard, but something in her eyes cracked. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then make me understand," Glory shouted, and suddenly all the years of pain came pouring out. "Make me understand why my friends tell me how lucky I am to have you as a mother. Make me understand why everyone in this village thinks you are wonderful, but your own children have never seen you laugh. Make me understand why you would rather be anywhere else but here with us." Mama Glory stood there, and for the first time, she had no words, no jokes, no performance, just silence and pain. Papa Glory came out of the bedroom drawn by the shouting. He saw his daughter's face wet with tears, his wife standing frozen like a statue. And he saw himself, saw the seed he had planted all those years ago, now bearing this bitter fruit. "Glory," Papa Glory said softly, "go to your room." "No," Glory said, "I am tired of going to my room. I am tired of pretending everything is fine. I am tired of living in this dead house." "Glory," Mama Glory started, but her voice broke. "Forget it, Mama," Glory said, her voice now cold and flat, sounding suddenly too much like her mother's. "Go to your village square. Go and be there, Mama Glory. We don't need you here." And she walked past her, out of the house, into the night. That night was the longest night in Mama Glory's life. She did not go to the village square. She did not perform for anyone. She sat in the dark living room listening to her daughter Sandra crying in her room, listening to Papa Glory pacing in the bedroom, probably thinking his own painful thoughts. For the first time in 14 years, Mama Glory looked at her life and saw it clearly. She saw what she had built, a wall so high and so thick that even she could not climb over it anymore. She saw her children growing up wounded, carrying the same coldness she had learned to wear.
She saw her husband trapped in regret and guilt, and she saw herself split in two, living half a life in two places, fully alive in neither.
One day, something happened that would change everything. It was the day of the village festival, and Mama Glory had been chosen to perform for everyone, to be the official comedian of the celebration. The whole village was buzzing with excitement. Mama Glory will perform. This will be the best festival ever. Mama Glory prepared her best stories, her finest jokes. She oiled her skin until it shone, wore her most beautiful wrapper. As she was about to leave the house, Papa Glory spoke. "I will come and watch you today," he said quietly. Mama Glory froze. In all these years, Papa Glory had never come to see her perform. He had heard about it, of course. The whole village talked about it, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. "Why?" she asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. "Because," Papa Glory said, and for the first time in many years, his voice was soft, almost pleading. "I want to see the woman my children tell me about. I want to see the woman who makes the whole village happy." Mama Glory said nothing. She walked out of the house, her heart pounding like a drum. For the first time in years, she felt afraid. It was one thing to perform for strangers, but for her husband to see her like that, what would it mean? At the festival ground, hundreds of people had gathered. The air was full of excitement and anticipation. The village chief announced, "And now, the moment we have all been waiting for, our very own Mama Glory." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Mama Glory stepped into the center of the circle. She looked at all the happy faces, the expectant eyes, and then she saw him, Papa Glory, standing at the back with Glory and Sandra. Her children's faces were full of wonder and confusion. They had never seen their mother in her element before. For a moment, Mama Glory stood frozen. The laughter that usually came so easily to her seemed stuck in her throat. How could she laugh and dance and play the fool with her family watching? How could she be two different people in the same moment? But then something happened. Little Sandra smiled at her, a small, hopeful smile. And in that smile, Mama Glory saw something she had forgotten. She saw love, she saw hope, she saw a chance. And so, Mama Glory began. She opened her mouth and let the laughter flow. She told her stories, acted her parts, twisted her face and danced her dances. She was magnificent. The crowd roared with laughter, slapping their thighs, wiping tears from their eyes. "Ah, Mama Glory, you are too much." But this time, as she performed, Mama Glory kept looking at her family. She saw Sandra's mouth fall open in amazement. She saw Glory begin to smile, then giggle, then laugh out loud. And most importantly, she saw Papa Glory. Papa Glory was not laughing, no. He was crying. Tears were running down his face as he watched his wife, as he saw the woman he had buried with his criticism and coldness, the woman who had been forced to share her gift with everyone except her own family. In that moment, Papa Glory saw what he had done. He saw what they had lost. When Mama Glory finished her performance, the crowd went wild with applause. But she only had eyes for her family. She walked toward them slowly, her heart in her throat. The laughter had left her face now, replaced by something else. Uncertainty, fear, hope. Papa Glory stepped forward. In front of the whole village, this proud man did something no one expected. He knelt down. "Forgive me," he said, his voice breaking. "I killed your laughter in our home. I made you a stranger to your own children. I am sorry. I am so sorry." The village fell silent. Even the children stopped their playing. Everyone watched as Mama Glory looked down at her kneeling husband. Years of pain, years of silence, years of double life, it all hung in the balance of that moment. And then, Mama Glory did something she had not done in 14 years. Standing in front of her husband, her children, and the whole village, Mama Glory smiled. Not the big comedian smile, not the performance smile, but a real smile, soft and genuine, and full of both pain and hope.
She reached down and touched Papa Glory's face. "Get up," she said softly. "Get up, old man. If you stay down there too long, your knees will pain you, and I will be the one to rub them tonight." And just like that, people began to laugh. Not at a joke or a performance, but at something real, something beautiful, at forgiveness, at hope, at new beginnings. From that day on, things began to change in Mama Glory's house. It did not happen overnight, or no. You cannot build in one day what took years to destroy. But slowly, laughter began to find its way back home. Papa Glory learned to apologize, to be gentle, to appreciate. And Mama Glory learned to open up, to let her family see the real her, to believe that she could be loved for who she truly was. The children, especially little Sandra, were the happiest. Finally, they could have what the whole village had enjoyed for so long: their mother's laughter, their mother's joy, their mother's full presence. And Mama Glory, she continued to perform at the village square, continued to make people laugh and forget their troubles. But now, when she came home in the evening, she did not leave her joy at the gate. She brought it inside with her. The compound that had once been as silent as a graveyard became filled with sounds of life, laughter, teasing, stories, and love. This is the lesson of Mama Glory's story. Sometimes, the people who bring the most joy to the world are carrying the most pain inside. Sometimes, the comedian is the one who is crying. Sometimes, we give our best to strangers and our worst to those we love the most. But it is never too late to change this new year. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the story. Bye!